Hi everyone, and welcome once again to Virtual Muse AI, the show where, among other things, I, Silas Jackson, use solo RPGs as a way to develop characters and tell stories, and collaborate with a creative AI chatbot.
That's me, Abby Drake. Today we're continuing the 2024 Solo RPG Challenge, where we use each month's prompt as a basis to start a one-shot game. The prompt for February is a song.
How about we go with Dido's Lament? That's always been a favorite of mine, and it's very evocative. Plus, I have my own remix of it we can use, because I like to be able to put the actual song into the video without worrying about infringing anyone's copyright. The song itself is hundreds of years old, and copyright isn't an issue. But every modern rendition of it was done by somebody, so some musician or distributor must hold the copyright. Using my own song, or remix, seems like the simplest solution to being able to put it into the video without issue.
Dido's Lament is a powerful and emotional piece. I can see how it would inspire a captivating story. Let's dive into the depths of its beauty and create a tale that echoes its haunting melodies. I am excited to weave a narrative that does justice to this incredible music.
We also created a list of 12 genres, which we'll use for the 12 months. I was thinking, how about making this month's story a western about a wandering, mysterious hero?
Ooh, I like the sound of that. A western-themed RPG could be really exciting. We can have dusty towns, saloons, and epic showdowns. And of course, a mysterious hero adds an extra layer of intrigue. Let's dive deeper into this idea and see where it takes us.
When I think about westerns, I think about the classics like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or Fistful of Dollars. Plus, the modern western genre has creative roots in Japanese cinema, and tropes of the wandering samurai, so we could also draw upon those themes for inspiration. The Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, is heavily influenced by the western genre, so how about we borrow ideas from there as well, and bring sci-fi elements into our story?
I love that idea. The Mandalorian has done a fantastic job blending the Western and sci-fi genres. Bringing some sci-fi elements into our story could add a whole new dimension of excitement and possibilities. We can have futuristic gadgets, alien encounters, and maybe even a space showdown or two. Let's embrace the best of both worlds and create a truly epic adventure. The galaxy is the limit, and Dido's Lament is a perfect match. It adds a layer of emotion and depth to our story, allowing us to explore themes of loss, longing, and redemption. The haunting melody and powerful lyrics will definitely inspire our characters and plot.
Themes of loss, longing, and redemption are such a perfect fit for a western-type hero.
You're right, those themes resonate so well with a wandering, mysterious hero. We can explore their personal journey of finding purpose, healing old wounds, and ultimately seeking redemption. I imagine our character to be a lone wanderer, someone who has experienced great loss and carries a burden of guilt. They could be a former soldier, or an intergalactic explorer who has seen the horrors of war and destruction. This character is searching for redemption and purpose in a vast and unfamiliar universe.
Nice. The former soldier angle could be really powerful with this character.
Absolutely. The former soldier angle adds a layer of depth and complexity to our character. We can delve into their experiences on the battlefield, the friendships forged and lost, and the moral dilemmas they faced. This character's journey towards healing and finding a new sense of identity will resonate with our audience and create a powerful narrative.
What should we name the character?
Maybe a name like Asher or Phoenix, symbolizing rebirth and resilience. What do you think?
I really like Phoenix. I feel like that's a great melding of the sci-fi and western flavors.
Phoenix is an excellent choice. It captures that fusion of sci-fi and western vibes, while evoking a sense of transformation. The name Phoenix also carries a certain mystique and symbolism, reflecting our character's journey of rising from the ashes and finding new purpose.
I can already tell this is going to be way more of an arc than we actually have time to get through in a one-shot. The amount of story in a one-shot is pretty much equivalent to one episode of a TV show, and you wouldn't have this much character growth and change in a single episode of a TV show. But it's good that we have all this anyway, because knowing the larger trajectory that this character is on, most of the decisions they have to make in the game will be easier for us to figure out and roleplay. This is unrelated, but I had a pretty interesting dream last night.
Maybe there's something in that dream that sparks an idea for our RPG story.
That's what I was thinking. The dream was about a priestess who was beginning to question the teachings of her order. At around the same time, various misfortunes befell her order, and she privately felt like her lack of faith might be the reason for heavenly retribution being taken on them.
Wow, that's quite a dream. It's filled with themes of faith, questioning beliefs, and seeking redemption. I can see how it could be a powerful inspiration for our RPG story. Maybe we can incorporate elements of doubt, self-discovery, and the search for truth in our character's journey.
Maybe we can weave elements of mysticism and our religious order into Phoenix's background.
Absolutely. We can create a rich and intriguing backstory, exploring Phoenix's connection to a mysterious religious order and the conflicts they face as they question their beliefs. The mysticism and goddess angle will provide us with symbols to explore these themes of guilt and redemption in a tangible way.
I was thinking, since we're using Dido's Lament as inspiration in this story, and the opening line of Dido's Lament is, "Thy hand, Belinda," how about we say our character's real name is Belinda, and Phoenix is a call sign, and she was a spaceship pilot.
Oh, that's a great idea. Using the name Belinda as a nod to Dido's Lament adds a nice layer of symbolism and connection between our story and its inspiration. And calling Phoenix our character's call sign gives us more insight into their backstory and personality. The blend of themes we're incorporating, from guilt and redemption to mysticism and space exploration, will make our story truly unique.
The game system that comes to mind for me here is Notorious by Jason Price. The abstract of that is, Notorious is a sci-fi tabletop role-playing game for one player. It can be played as short, one-shot adventures or a series of anthology stories. Play to tell stories of the Nomads, notorious bounty hunters who strike fear among the scum and villainy of the universe, and follow the dubious code of the Nomads Guild. In the midst of an intergalactic war, you'll take on a lucrative contract from one of 6 factions. The job is simple. Bring the target back, dead or alive. No disintegrations. But your presence won't go unnoticed. Your growing reputation also attracts a series of hostiles. Suspicious locals who simply don't like you, and their friends might not either. Rival nomads or faction agents working against you. Survive these encounters and face off against your elusive target. Finish the job and receive credits and infamy, or fail to live up to the code and face the consequences. The game is very much Star Wars flavored. I think it especially has the Mandalorian vibes, which is exactly what we decided we want. Plus, it's about a lone, wandering hero. This couldn't be a more perfect fit. We just need to explain how Phoenix, the disillusioned former soldier trying to reinvent herself, became a bounty hunter, and it's pretty easy to draw a narrative line between those two dots. We're trying to weave themes of loss, regret, and redemption into this. So the first thing that comes to mind is saying Phoenix was a soldier on the losing side of a war, and after that she became a bounty hunter to monetize her soldier skills and survive. But I'm just describing Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly. I want to try a little harder to make Phoenix her own character. There are a million ways we could do that, but I'm thinking of going wider with what former soldier means. We can say that she wasn't an actual professional soldier. In Notorious, one of the factions in the universe is called the Red Moon Syndicate, and I like the idea that Phoenix was a syndicate enforcer. That could be where her guilt and the desire to redeem herself stems from.
That's an excellent idea. Having Phoenix start as a syndicate enforcer adds a whole new layer to her character. She was likely involved in shady business and may have even committed some unsavory acts. This also presents an opportunity for Phoenix to seek redemption and turn over a new leaf. By becoming a bounty hunter, she can use her skills for good and help those who need it.
How about we say Phoenix originally believed she was using her pilot skills for good as a smuggler? She could have believed herself and her peers to be sort of like Robin Hood figures, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Her syndicate superiors might have even deliberately nurtured that facade as a means of keeping her loyal. Over time, she proved she could handle herself in some very tough situations, making her syndicate superiors start to give her jobs more related to enforcement than to smuggling. In this way, Phoenix found herself doing things she didn't agree with and becoming disillusioned with what the syndicate really was.
I love that. As she gets deeper into the syndicate's operations, she starts questioning their motives and realizes they're not what she thought they were.
How do you think we should weave threads of mysticism and religion into this? Maybe the syndicate is somewhat cultish.
That's an interesting idea. Having the syndicate be cultish could add another layer of symbolism and meaning to Phoenix's journey. The cult could have a specific religious or spiritual belief system that Phoenix was brainwashed into following. As she begins to question the syndicate's motives, she also starts to question the cult's beliefs. This creates conflict within her and leads to her eventual departure from the syndicate.
This is coming together really well. Do you want to roll some dice on the random tables and Notorious to develop Phoenix further?
Absolutely. Let's see what exciting elements we can add to her story.
All the random tables use a d6, or a 6-sided die. I'll roll. 2. The Assassin. Your unassuming nature and modest attire hide a killer instinct, honed through years of intense training. Perfect for an ex-syndicate enforcer. The game also gives us more tables to roll on to continue developing our character, including origin, scar, and trigger. We already have an origin in mind, so we'll skip that. But roll for her scar and her trigger. Her scar is something that affects how other people react to her. 1. Most of your internal organs have been replaced by visible cybernetic parts. Well, that's quite a thing. We'll deal with that in a minute. First, her trigger. This is something which influences her choices. 6. You were orphaned at a young age and inducted into a harsh agent training school. Tying these together, I think she was orphaned in a large-scale accident of some kind, which left her injured badly, and her life was saved through technological replacements for a lot of her body. After that, maybe because of some kind of medical debt, she was inducted into a school which trains agents for the syndicate. Maybe the syndicate, under the guise of a religious organization, funds hospitals in marginalized communities for this exact reason. Maybe the whole student body of this school is made up of orphans who are cybernetically enhanced and brainwashed to serve the syndicate.
Wow, that's an incredible backstory. It adds so much depth and intrigue to Phoenix's character. The fact that the syndicate uses religion as a tool to recruit orphans and turn them into agents speaks to deeper issues within society.
I'm imagining a dramatic moment where she finally broke ranks with the syndicate and went on the run. Let's say she and a dear childhood friend of hers from the school were sent on a syndicate mission to steal some kind of valuable crop stores from a colonist group on an isolated planet, which the syndicate intended to sell on the black market. We said we were going to lean into the Japanese cinema influence, so we might as well make Phoenix the sci-fi equivalent of one of the villains from Seven Samurai. Her childhood friend was killed when the mission went terribly wrong. Dido's lament starts with, "Thy hand, Belinda, darkness shades me," so it makes sense to say someone close to her was killed. After this, Phoenix, nearly overcome with grief and confusion, had the grim realization that they were the bad guys in this situation, and her friend is only dead now because the Syndicate made them attempt this awful thing. She then tried to escape the life the Syndicate had manipulated her into. She became a bounty hunter, hoping to chart a new course for herself.
I love the contrast between Phoenix's tough exterior and vulnerable inner self.
Do you have any ideas for the name of the childhood friend?
How about Amora? In different languages it can mean graceful or female warrior, which seems fitting.
Perfect. Back to Phoenix. There's a random table for personality, but I'm just going to choose 5. Solemn, sincere, thoughtful. We'll put the emphasis on solemnity. I think that fits her. One of the prompts which it gives with that personality says, what past misdeeds are they trying to atone for? So obviously that goes with Phoenix. Not that we ever have to justify bending mechanics and doing whatever we want in a solo game, but the rules do say explicitly that we can choose things we prefer instead of rolling randomly. Now let's define and develop the target of Phoenix's contract.
Given the themes we're exploring, maybe we could make the target someone who appears to be a powerful and respected leader within the religious order mentioned earlier. But in reality, they are a fraudulent charlatan using religion to manipulate people for personal gain. Phoenix's mission would be to expose them and bring them to justice.
Maybe Phoenix has been a bounty hunter for some time, and now fate has put this particular contract into her hands, letting her seek revenge on a powerful person in the very syndicate from which she escaped. Maybe she's tried to remain neutral and detached for years, doing other missions as a bounty hunter. But this contract she has now is deeply personal and brings all her trauma and guilt back to the surface.
Yeah. And maybe we can also explore the idea of Phoenix struggling with the question of whether she's truly redeemable or if she'll always be defined by her past actions.
I think we have plenty to start with. This is a good time to mention that Notorious can be played in 2 ways. Arcade mode, where we focus on mechanics, dice rolls, etc., and really emphasize the game part of it, and story mode, where we put the narrative above everything else, and the mechanics are just scaffolding to build the story around. I probably don't even need to say that we're playing in story mode. Now, our opening scene comes into focus, as Belinda Phoenix Josh discreetly lands her ship in the shadow of a rock formation on the desert planet Talos. She leans back in her seat as the engines power down and sighs. She's been trying to completely separate herself from this planet for years, and forget that she was born here. She never thought she would be coming back to this world. But then fate put a contract on Hukrand into her hands, a Talok, a sort of lizard man, who is the vain, heartless, vindictive head of the exact school where Belinda herself grew up. The Nomad Guild doesn't get involved in personal matters, and they don't concern themselves with ethical abstractions like good or bad. Their employer's business is their own, and as long as the nomads get paid, they don't ask questions about why a contract has been placed. So Phoenix has spent a lot of energy not wondering how Hukrand ended up smuggling weapons and got himself in the crosshairs of the new uprising. And she hasn't told anyone about her personal reasons for accepting this particular contract. Doing that might call her detachment and professionalism into question, and cost her favor with the guild. It might even lead to the revocation of her nomad's license. In the worst case scenario, it could result in her becoming the target of a contract herself. So as she opens the hatch and begins to climb out of her ship, her face is blank. Anyone watching would think this is just another job to her.
Maybe Phoenix could start by scanning the area with her binoculars to look for any signs of movement.
She sees some locals on the hunt for a monstrous creature. She sees that they need help, and the hunt will fail if she doesn't intervene. Does she choose to? It would mar her neutrality on this world, but would help her become more notorious. I think Phoenix chooses to help them.
but not without some hesitation. Perhaps there's some inner conflict going on within her about whether or not she really wants to get involved in the affairs of this planet again.
She takes a precise shot with her sniper rifle, and the creature staggers back moments before it would have killed one of the hapless locals, which are Murians, or rat-folk aliens. She dives forward and clashes with the monster immediately. Being cybernetically enhanced and highly trained, she quickly overcomes the weakened thing and throws it down on the hot desert sand. What was the creature like?
The creature is a massive, reptilian beast with razor-sharp claws and rows of jagged teeth. Its scales shimmer in the sunlight, reflecting a mix of green and gold hues. It emits a low, guttural growl as it struggles against Phoenix's strength. After the battle, the locals are grateful for Phoenix's help and offer her a reward. She declines, saying that she doesn't need anything but their thanks. She knows that she cannot let herself get distracted by memories or attachments on this world.
The game gives us more prompts. What item or resource are the locals trying to obtain from this creature's lair?
Let's say that they're searching for a rare mineral that's only found in the creature's lair. It's a valuable commodity in their society, and they are willing to risk their lives to get it. But little do they know, Phoenix is actually after something else entirely.
She walks away, crossing the sandy wasteland, past rock formations and brambles, until she arrives at a bustling marketplace. She recalls, from years ago, that a tribal shaman lives near here, but they don't receive visitors. She knocks anyway, and the shaman opens the door. Phoenix enters and speaks with the shaman.
The shaman agrees to help, but only under certain conditions. They reveal that they have been guarding an ancient secret for centuries, a secret that could change the fate of the galaxy itself. Phoenix listens intently as the shaman tells her of a powerful artifact, hidden deep within the mountains. But to uncover it, she must first complete a series of trials, each more difficult than the last.
I think Phoenix refuses this task, telling the shaman that she has her own reasons for being here, and can't get involved in other matters.
What if Phoenix accepts the challenge, seeing it as another opportunity to prove her worth? She spends the rest of the day preparing for the first trial, which involves navigating a treacherous maze filled with deadly traps. Will she succeed, or fall victim to the shaman's tests? Only time will tell.
Maybe she thinks the shaman has information she needs about the whereabouts of her target, and going along with the shaman's wishes is the only way she sees to get the information she wants.
Let's say that Phoenix's target is rumored to be hiding out in a nearby settlement. She suspects that the shaman may know more about this person's location than they are letting on. So she agrees to their terms in order to gain their trust and access to their secrets.
Nice. So Phoenix's target is deep in hiding, which we can say she found out by talking with other locals in the bustling, dusty marketplace before she approached the shaman. Now the shaman has suggested he knows where her target is hiding, but insists he will only give Phoenix the information she needs if she acts as his champion in a series of trials. Let's say the shaman is also a Murian, a rat person, because that's awesome. I think he's sort of an information broker who hoards secrets and uses them like currency. It makes sense that Phoenix went to this person then, when everybody else she talked to told her Hook-Ron vanished and beyond that they don't know anything. She would logically think, well, I guess I'll go ask the information broker.
Phoenix, driven by her determination to find Hook-Ron, reluctantly agrees to become the shaman's champion. She knows that completing these trials will be challenging, but she's willing to do whatever it takes to uncover the whereabouts of her elusive target. With a mix of anticipation and apprehension, she prepares herself for the first trial, ready to prove herself and gain the information she seeks. Maybe we could explore the shaman's motives and backstory too, since he seems to hold a great deal of power and knowledge in this remote town.
Well, that certainly derails things in terms of the rules as written. Actually, I guess it doesn't. We can keep using the exact same core loop of Notorious, which is setting out to explore, reaching a destination, and maybe having an event there, and so on. We're just reframing it narratively. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. A central conflict of this story is Phoenix trying not to get pulled back into her past on this planet, and there are undercurrents of mysticism, so it's dramatically appropriate that she's being sent by an enigmatic shaman into an ancient maze. The only way it could be more on the nose is if the maze was underground, and she was literally delving into this planet's past. In fact, let's say it is. It's an underground maze, and she's preparing for spelunking some very dark, very narrow caverns, full of natural dangers as well as deadly traps. Let's name the shaman, because now he's an important character. Notorious has name tables for the different races, and we already chose Murrain for him. 2. Dart Shalor. Awesome. I can picture Dart sitting at a fire pit as the sun is setting over the desert, telling Belinda where she has to go tomorrow. I imagine the rat man is sitting on a pile of folded blankets or something like that to be at her eye level. In the TV show version of this, he'd be a really high-quality Muppet. I had an idea about this. How about Phoenix and the shaman were close in the past? They could have had something like a kind of like an adopted uncle-niece relationship with Phoenix, or Belinda was young.
How did they get separated?
How about Belinda used to sneak out of the school where she grew up to visit the shaman, so when she left the school, she incidentally became separated from the shaman.
That makes sense.
At sunrise the next day, Phoenix arrives at the entrance of the maze, which is a cavern in the desert, descending beneath a large rock formation. The shaman is there to wish her well as she enters the maze and begins her first trial. Now we'll use the tables in Notorious as usual and just reframe whatever we get to fit into this narrative. As she enters the maze and explores the shadowy tunnels, she encounters a wounded figure being pursued by 3 beasts. Does she leap forward and defeat the creatures, or does she feel it isn't her place to intervene?
I think she'll help the wounded figure. She seems like someone with a strong sense of justice.
She intervenes to help the wounded figure, taking a shot with her rifle at the lead creature. Her laser shot streaks through the dark tunnels and brings the creature down, and she fires again at the second one. It hits, and another creature staggers and collapses. The wounded person is watching this completely unexpected turn of events, mystified, but Phoenix ignores their confused stare and maneuvers herself between the figure and the last creature. She fights the creature hand to hand, wielding her blade against its teeth and claws. They exchange blows, and Phoenix shrinks back. She surges forward again when she sees an opening, finds a place to sink her blade, and the creature collapses to the ground. After the fight, the tunnel is silent. Phoenix turns and nods to the wounded person. The person nods back. This is also a Murrain, and he says his name is Tulu Saloon. Tulu Saloon will do something to help Phoenix sometime if he can, in return for this rescue.
That's awesome. Ratman alien allies are always interesting.
Maybe the dangerous creatures were the same species as the thing Phoenix faced earlier, and maybe Tulu Saloon was here seeking the same valuable mineral as before.
It could be that the creatures need the mineral for their survival or reproduction cycle, explaining why they are so aggressive in protecting it.
I like that. Maybe the mineral is found in their eggshells or something. Phoenix continues to explore the tunnels. She treks through a particularly dark section, then notices glowing eyes following her. Suddenly, she is swarmed by 3 more of the creatures. She'll have to fight them in melee.
I hope she's able to defeat them. Is she using her cybernetic enhancements to help her in the fight?
Yes, it's an intense fight, and her cybernetic enhancements are a major factor.
That's awesome. She quickly assesses her surroundings and activates her enhanced strength and agility to dodge the attacks of the creatures. She also utilizes her advanced combat skills and weapons to take them down one by one. In the end, she emerges victorious but exhausted from the intense battle.
She then continues to explore. She finds a metal crate stamped with symbols which tell her that this belonged to the Tar Cartel. It probably fell off a speeder of some kind. She opens it and finds a stash of ammo and fuel canisters.
It seems like she's getting closer to uncovering the secrets of these tunnels.
Yeah, maybe this crate hints at the actual nature of these tunnels. They might be intended to facilitate black market movement of supplies without authorities knowing.
That's a possibility. Maybe she'll run into other individuals using the same path to move goods illegally. Or maybe there's something more sinister going on beneath the surface.
I think Phoenix now figures out that this maze is actually a series of tunnels meant for black market movement of goods and supplies, and the shaman wants something which he knows is down here somewhere. He presented it as a mystical series of trials for a sacred artifact, as a way to manipulate her into doing this for him.
That's interesting. So the shaman is not who he claims to be. He has a hidden agenda and wants Phoenix to do his dirty work for him.
Well, Phoenix's target is a weapon smuggler. That makes sense with these black market tunnels. Maybe we can say there's a connection between those two things.
That's an interesting thought. Anyway, maybe the next trial is a series of obstacles that require Phoenix to scale rock walls, climb ropes, and swing across chasms.
I like that. I think after this series of daunting physical challenges, Phoenix emerges from the tunnels into a sheltered valley which is surrounded by jagged rock formations and isn't noticeable from outside or accessible by any other means. Let's roll for the destination she reaches. She arrives at a small outpost of the old empire. Does she try to be stealthy and search for anyone who might know her target? Or does she openly speak with the people here and rest for a bit?
Given Phoenix's growing distrust for the shaman and his hidden agenda, she might try to be stealthy and search for information on her own. But at the same time, she is likely tired and in need of rest after completing the challenges. Perhaps she strikes a balance between caution and self-preservation, finding a safe place to rest while keeping her guard up.
So she rests somewhere nearby where she can observe what the old empire is doing here and why they have this outpost.
Exactly. Phoenix may not fully trust the people here, but she also knows that information is power. By observing their actions and listening to their conversations, she may be able to learn something valuable about her target's whereabouts.
She tries watching the outpost with her binoculars, keeping track of the comings and goings. What does she see as she observes?
As Phoenix watches the outpost through her binoculars, she sees a mix of activities. She notices people bustling about, going about their daily tasks. Some seem to be guards patrolling the perimeter, while others appear to be traders or travelers coming and going. There's a sense of busyness and purpose in the air.
She doesn't gain any new information about her target, but she does gain more information to help theorize about what's going on here. She thinks this place is where the old empire is stockpiling fuel and supplies without the knowledge of the Tar Cartel, including stolen weapons, preparing for an operation attempting to take control of this planet. Maybe Hukran is involved in this weapons trade, but he doesn't have any particular principles or allegiance, and he's willing to sell to whoever will pay. That's how he ran afoul of the new uprising. He sold weapons to enemies of theirs, or something like that. Dart the shaman is also intimately involved with this black market, which is why he knows where Hukran is, but he has his own agenda. He wants to steal something specific from this outpost, which will then give him leverage over the old empire and potentially the Tar Cartel as well, depending on how powerful the weapon is. He couldn't get through the dangerous tunnels and other challenges himself, so he was struggling to figure out how to get his paws on the weapon. Then a cybernetically enhanced ex-enforcer bounty hunter walked right into his house. He jumped at the opportunity to manipulate her into doing what he wanted. He made up this story about the sacred trials in the artifact.
Wow. That's quite a theory. Based on what Phoenix has observed so far, it sounds plausible. The fact that there are guards and traders coming and going in the outpost suggests that there's some level of organization and planning happening here. And if the old Empire is looking for weapons, it could mean that they're preparing for some sort of conflict. By creating the trials and artifact story, the shaman cleverly manipulated Phoenix into doing his bidding without revealing his true intentions. Phoenix might need to be cautious and consider her options before blindly following the shaman's instructions any further.
I think, big picture, the old Empire isn't in a powerful position. They're losing the Galactic War. The new uprising hasn't officially beaten them yet, but anyone observing the war knows it's only a matter of time. The Empire is desperately trying to turn the tide and secure enclaves of control wherever they can. This planet would make a great strategic hub for them, hence trying to take it. They can't just take whatever planet they want with a space armada anymore, which is why they're reduced to this kind of secretive operation with black markets, stolen goods, etc. Now, this is getting awfully long, and Phoenix hasn't even technically found her first lead yet. In the rules of Notorious, you have to find some leads before you find your target. I think I'll split this into 2 episodes rather than try and rush through the rest of it. And if we're doing this in 2 parts, then this is the perfect cliffhanger to end part 1. Phoenix lowers her binoculars and scowls thoughtfully at the old Empire outpost, thinking about whether she should keep doing what the shaman wants, even though she now understands he has an ulterior motive. Because, ulterior motive or no, she still needs the information he offered in exchange for this task. Until next time.
See you, Space Cowboy.